Hulks will pay for this.
Complete lore of The Incredible Hulk, 1996, explored. Do you know what's incredible about The Incredible Hulk? Is it his fearsome superpower, or is it the unparalleled intellect of Bruce Banner? Let's get our answers from the popular 90s animated TV series The Incredible Hulk. This animated production of the Marvel superhero has been popular for its comic book accuracy. Despite running for only 2 seasons, the show was successful in leaving a mark through its classic storylines and frequent appearances by other Marvel characters. As Banner continues to find a cure for himself throughout the series, he is frequently forced to Hulk out. Now that we are done with the introduction, let's kick off with a nostalgic recap of the entire lore of the series. Return of the Beast, Part 1. The story of The Incredible Hulk begins with a dream sequence of Dr. Bruce Banner sharing an apple with his date, Betty Ross. The couple is interrupted by Betty's father, General Ross, and as he pulls Betty away, the ground shifts and rips apart, while Dr. Banner turns into the green, hulking monster. The scene pays homage to the stories of Adam and Eve, with Bruce and Betty playing the mythical characters. Betty wakes up from the devastating dream to find her father talking with Major Glenn Talbot, who informs General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross about discovering an electrical tap in the desert. Talbot deciphers that only one person will need that much energy to run his lab, and that person is Dr. Bruce Banner. Betty tries to stop her father and explains that, if anything, Bruce is trying to cure himself of his affliction. However, General Ross considers Bruce a public menace, and although he disapproves of the relationship, he cannot see his daughter sad. He comments that no one is safe when Banner turns to Hulk and leaves. It is the first animated show to feature Betty as blonde since she has been traditionally a brunette in other versions. As Betty predicted, Bruce powered up a console and strapped himself to a metallic chair to cure himself. Meanwhile, unable to trace Banner's lab, Talbot uses a bazooka to destroy the towers supplying the energy. The tower falls on a barn, blowing it up while the energy fills the clouds. Somewhere nearby, Bruce is seconds away from getting his cure when the power surges and the console blows up while he turns into the Incredible Hulk. The shot of Hulk's skull in the dream sequence and a danger sign in the lab is an homage to the 1977 live-action television series The Incredible Hulk, which features Lou Ferrigno as the titular character. He also voices Hulk in this animated version. Hulk destroys the consoles and comes out of hiding, only to be spotted by Major Talbot and the soldiers who try to capture him. Hulk smashes and destroys anything within his grasp, which includes soldiers in robotic suits, army helicopters, and the usual stuff you think may work against the Hulk. The soldiers manage to confine Hulk in a steel confinement box, and just as Hulk is about to smash out of the box, Betty appears in her truck and asks Hulk to calm down. General Ross stops the army from attacking as Hulk turns back to Bruce. General Ross takes Bruce back to the Gamma base, and Bruce insists that the General let him use the power and equipment to run his test program. Betty agrees and supports his deduction, expecting this will indeed finish the story of the Hulk, and the General has to agree reluctantly. However, a robotic bug records everything, which is watched by a man called Leader. Leader has an enlarged green head and calls himself the creator of the Hulk. He calls in for the help of a man called Gargoyle, who has a similar grotesque head, but he is a dwarf. Leader wants the Hulk for his malevolent plans, whereas Gargoyle wants to know Bruce's secret of returning to normal. Rick Jones gets a call from Betty, who asks him to visit the Gamma base lab. Rick works in Ed's garage and leaves hurriedly on a motorbike. Meanwhile, Bruce remembers how sabotage led to the explosion at the Gamma base, and Rick unexpectedly appeared with his dirt bike. Bruce saved Rick and the others, but got engulfed by the gamma rays, which made him the Hulk. The scene gives us a glimpse of the Grey Hulk until he turns into the traditional green. This refers to the original design of the Hulk for the comics. Leader has his own flashback of how he was involved in the experiment, and later, he dressed as a firefighter who fell into the radioactive green ooze at the spot of the explosion to turn into the deformed figure. Ross gets a clearance for Bruce's experiment as the Leader panics and asks Gargoyle to let out Abomination. Ross examines the gamma ray gun while Talbot tightens the restraints on Bruce. Betty starts the test, but it fails again as the abomination emerges from the ground outside the base. The abomination overthrows the soldiers and disrupts the power supply of the towers. He then enters the lab and lifts Betty, which makes Bruce angry and leads him to lose control. As he turns into the Hulk, General Ross tries to use the Omega laser on the Hulk and Abomination. Fearing the risk of being discovered, Leader calls back Abomination while Hulk continues to rampage outside. The episode ends on a cliffhanger as General Ross and Major Talbot stop Betty from approaching Hulk. Return of the Beast. Part 2. General Ross is ready with the Omega laser, but Betty tries to pacify the Hulk so that he can change back to Bruce Banner. However, Major Talbot stops Betty from reaching out, and as she struggles, Hulk gets enraged. General Ross takes the opportunity to fire the Omega laser at Hulk. He takes 3 shots at Hulk, weakening him enough so the rest of the soldiers can approach, but not enough as Hulk gains consciousness and attacks back. Betty finally frees herself from the Major and pleads to Hulk to escape. Major Talbot asks Betty why she helps the Green Monster when he might kill her, but Betty retorts that Hulk would not hurt her as she is never the one to attack. General Ross and the Major are bent on seeing an end to the Hulk, as they keep sending helicopters and cannons attacking the Hulk. Hulk leaves, but a helicopter fires at him, causing an explosion and an enormous crater. Surprisingly, a host of gigantic and mutated desert creatures appears in the crater and helps Hulk get rid of the pursuing helicopters. Hulk thinks of the creatures as friends and follows them to a cave, but only after he crashes the spying bug of the leader. These creatures are more popularly known as the Outcasts. In The Incredible Hulk, Volume 1, Issue 329, the Outcasts befriended Rick Jones' Hulk, who introduced them to Bruce Banner. Leader gets intrigued by the desert creatures and realizes they are also the outcome of the gamma explosion that created Hulk. Leader sends the Abomination to get the creatures as it will let him find Hulk. Meanwhile, Glenn Talbot also informs General Ross about outside help breaking off the pursuit of Hulk. Betty is glad to hear the news, but not General Ross, who has burned his hands while handling the laser. General Ross is angry that the Hulk destroyed his gamma base, almost costing him a star. General Ross is a 3-star personnel, making him a lieutenant general who usually commands 20,000 to 45,000 soldiers and works at Major Command Headquarters or the Pentagon. Frustrated with her father, Elizabeth Ross drives through the desert in her Humvee, but the fuel runs out. Rick Jones appears and helps her with the oil from his bike, but before they can go on to find the Hulk, they get abducted by the Outcasts. When Betty and Rick wake up, they are in a cave and greeted by Bruce. Bruce explains how he found his own community within the Outcasts. The moment doesn't last long as Abomination appears after fighting some of the creatures. Abomination brings down the cave, locking everyone in rubble as he escapes with an unconscious Bruce. Meanwhile, General Ross makes his case to the Pentagon and gets approval for the Hulkbusters. Back at the cave, the Outcasts help remove the stones and rubble to help out Rick and Betty. Rick has now befriended the creatures and named one of them Scorps. While Scorps is the only named Outcast in this series, the comic books have names for each creature. In Leader's lair, Gargoyle tries to wake up Bruce but is interrupted by Leader. Leader straps himself to a seat and is ready for Hulk's power to be transferred to himself. But the only catch is that Bruce is way too relaxed to turn into the Hulk. He even has a little fun mocking Gargoyle and Leader. Although Leader comes clean about lying to Gargoyle about helping him find a solution to his deformed features, he forces Gargoyle to electrocute Bruce so that he can transform. Bruce resists the shocks, and as this happens, the Humvee with Rick, Betty and the Outcasts break into the lair. Leader orders his battle drones to retaliate, and the ensuing battle blows up the Humvee, but the others are capable enough to fight the retaliation. As Bruce transforms into Hulk, it powers up Leader and he changes to a similar hulking monster. Betty continues to hit Bruce's glass chamber with an iron rod, but Abomination stops her. Rick tries to fight Abomination, and seeing them in danger, Hulk pounds at the glass, which not only breaks it, but also overpowers the Leader's console, firing it up. Gargoyle escapes with several databanks, while Leader is left desolate with his foiled plans. Hulk escapes with Rick and Betty, and as the Outcasts bid goodbye, Betty waves them back. As military choppers arrive, the Hulk must leave his friends behind. just as General Ross promises his day of reckoning will come.
Gone
And good riddance.
Raw power. While the Hulk is on the run, General Ross is running a tight ship at the Gamma base. He trains soldiers in fighting robotic simulations of the Incredible Hulk and gearing up for the deployment of the Hulkbusters. However, there is a little hiccup. S.H.I.E.L.D. has sent one of their agents, Agent Gabriel, to monitor the entire operation. General Ross doesn't take Agent Gabriel's snooping positively, but it's an order from Washington leaders, and so he has to suck it up. Mitch McCutcheon is driving through the desert in Nevada when Hulk suddenly lifts his car. Mitch alerts Hulk of the robots attacking, and Hulk puts the car down, realizing that Mitch doesn't mean harm. As Mitch drives away, Hulk fights more robots with the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo on the chest plate. Mitch arrives late at the nuclear power plant where he works. Mitch's co-workers make fun of him and do not believe he met the Incredible Hulk. Elsewhere, Betty speaks with Rick over the phone, who informs her that he is in Arizona and heading to California to find Hulk. After Betty ends the call, Dr. Sampson enters the room to greet her and thanks her for convincing the Gamma base to fund his research. However, Betty has invited Sampson to find a cure for Bruce. General Ross welcomes Sampson and asks him to join the Hulkbusters, although Sampson points to his long green hair and comments on how he is not really a soldier material. On the other hand, Mitch meets with a female co-worker, Peg, who sports short, dark hair and resembles Betty Ross from the 1982 Incredible Hulk animated series. After Peg leaves, Mitch notices movement outside and comes across Hulk. Mitch stops Hulk by calling himself a friend, which transforms him into Bruce Banner. Bruce asks Mitch to take him inside the lab where Mitch works. Back in the Gamma base, General Ross prepares his Hulkbuster troop to go to Nevada and capture Hulk. Agent Gabriel, Doc Sampson and Betty also tag along. Sampson wears his supersuit as he has powers similar to the Hulk. Back in Nevada, Mitch and Banner sneak into the lab and prepare a new experiment that can help cure Banner. However, it gets interrupted by Mitch's boss, who brings in the guards and tries to switch off the power. As the consoles blow up, Mitch tries to rescue Banner but gets engulfed by the energy blast and becomes an energy monster. The superpower gets to Mitch's head, who now prefers to be called Zax, and targets his boss. As Zax loses power, he grabs a generator to gain more power. Zax ignores Bruce's advice and doesn't want to turn back, while the blast and Zax's actions have caused a nuclear breach, which can blow up the entire lab. The fear of nuclear disaster also causes Bruce to Hulk out, and Zizax attacks Hulk. The voice of Zizax is done by 3 actors, whereas, unlike the comic book version, which has a yellow-orange Zizax, the monster in the animated version has a more realistic white and blue electricity-like colour. General Ross gets an alert on the nuclear breach and arrives at the nuclear power plant. Although Hulk inadvertently uses Zizax's power to stop the explosion, Zizax gets away, and Hulk gets captured by the approaching military containment unit. However, it's only a matter of time before Hulk breaks through and destroys a helicopter. He stops destroying the aircraft that has Betty aboard. Betty requests Hulk to stop Zizax, who is now heading to Hoover Dam and can cause a flood. A final fight between Hulk and Zizax happens over the dam, and although Hulk is losing at first, he recovers and throws Zizax into the water, causing the energy to dissipate. This also turns Zizax back into Mitch, and Hulk rescues him, thinking of him as a friend. While Betty is relieved that Hulk is escaping, General Ross is frustrated that Hulkbuster's first mission has tanked. Even Sampson makes a remark about both the military and S.H.I.E.L.D. being defeated by the Hulk.
Try throwing it at Iron Man.
Helping Hand, Iron Fist Hulk hears a scream and thinks Betty is in danger, but finds a family of 3 attacked by criminals in a car. Hulk throws the car directly in front of the police. The family thanks Hulk and gives him a jacket to wear, and the act of kindness reverts him to Bruce Banner. Realizing that he has landed in LA, Bruce uses a payphone to call Tony Stark, but the overpass crumbles and he falls. Rick Jones reaches Stark Enterprise, but the guard stops him from meeting Tony Stark. As Rick forces his way through, his motorbike gets lifted by War Machine. Rick tells him about the help needed for Bruce Banner, and War Machine takes him to meet Stark. Tony Stark's supercomputer, Homer, alerts him about James Rhodes, aka War Machine, wanting to meet him about something important. When Rhodes brings in Rick, he explains that Bruce is missing and assumes he will be coming here. Tony plays Bruce's message from 20 minutes back, and Homer helps locate it. Rick rushes out and finds an unconscious Bruce on the spot. However, when Bruce wakes up, he fails to recognize Rick and starts smacking him. As the two struggle, Bruce falls back into the rubble and transforms into Hulk. He approaches Rick to hit him, but Iron Man rescues Rick. If you have expected an Iron Fist cameo here, sorry to disappoint you, as the title referred to Iron Man. At this point, we get a fabulous Iron Man vs. Hulk moment until Rick approaches Hulk and identifies himself as a friend. The trick works as Hulk reverts to Bruce and faints again. At the Gamma base, Doc Samson and Betty test a new Gamma bath to treat the Hulk, but it is overloaded and fails. Meanwhile, Bruce wakes up in the infirmary and talks with his old friend Tony Stark as he gets frequent headaches and worries about Rick, who is examining Stark's extraordinary armory. Rhodey approaches Rick and discusses their best friends, Bruce and Tony, when Rhodey gets a call from Gabriel asking about Hulk. Although Rhodes denies knowing anything, the agent notices Rick in the back. While discussing it with General Ross, they realize that Hulk is there and decide to launch an attack. To help Bruce with his condition, Tony puts Bruce in a capsule as Homer begins a gamma purge. At the same time, the military aircraft appear around Stark Enterprise and Rick identifies them as the Hulkbusters. The episode is also a follow-up to Bruce or Hulk's guest appearance in the Iron Man 1994 episode Hulkbuster. If you have expected an Iron Fist cameo here, sorry to disappoint you. Tony instructs Rhodey to increase the auto security to level 10 as War Machine goes out to fight. The building security also fights against the robotic Hulkbusters. On the other hand, an issue with Bruce's defensive mutated DNA makes the experiment go haywire, and he wakes up like the Hulk. Simultaneously, the Hulkbusters also enter the building. Tony Stark gears up in a massive Iron Man armor, or rather, the Hulkbuster armor, as he fights the Hulkbuster robots. Iron Man also tries to restrain Hulk with his Hulkbuster armor, but Hulk squeezes and destroys it. Outside, War Machine also inflicts damage to the military equipment and rescues Rick, who now wears an Iron Man gauntlet to fight back. Despite all the efforts, Hulk still gets caged to the military confinement unit, but Rick jumps on it at the last moment. As Rick blows up the unit's controls, he urges Hulk to smash through it. Hulk escapes the confinement and lands with Rick in his arms. Iron Man and War Machine orders them to flee as they fight together against the military. Ross and Gabriel have to retreat when the upper portion of Stark Enterprise blows up. The military and S.H.I.E.L.D. fail to find any traces of Hulk and Rick, while Tony comments if he should charge S.H.I.E.L.D. or the Pentagon for the damages. Even though Homer does not find helping Bruce a cost-effective option, Tony reminds us that friendship is much more important, and we see Bruce and Rick escaping together in a train carriage.
For falsely condemning the Hulk.
Innocent blood. The episode begins in a graveyard. Do you know what can be found there? Ghosts. A man with a rugged look and on a motorbike appears in the cemetery as he surveys the damages nearby. Rick Jones also appears at the site, which is ravaged by fire, as the fireman complains about the Hulk destroying the town. The other man turns to the Ghost Rider as he follows Rick, but rescues Rick from falling down a bridge. Ghost Rider finds Rick as innocent, but goes after Hulk, as lives have been lost in the town fire. It is the first instance when Ghost Rider's human form is shown in the Marvel animated universe. It was also supposed to be a backdoor pilot. However, the Ghost Rider for this episode is considered to be Daniel Ketch and not the more popular Johnny Blaze version. Bruce Banner prays to God in a church, reminiscing about how the townspeople did not take strangers well, which made him angry, forcing the Hulk to come out. A nun asks Bruce to stay in the church as long as he wants, but when an explosion from its kitchen causes the church to blow up, Bruce turns to Hulk. He approaches the nun to help her, but Ghost Rider arrives first. Ghost Rider knocks Hulk out and takes the nun to safety, while Hulk runs away when caught by a helicopter's spotlight. Back at the Gamma base, Betty and Doc Samson are working on a tranquilizer ray that can cure Hulk, but is lethal. General Ross and Major Talbot appear and seek to use the tranquilizer ray, but Betty protests. However, General Ross gives Glenn a secret order to take the tranquilizer ray gun to the Windy City. This segment of the story doesn't bode well for the Incredible Hulk, as yet again, Leader is keeping a watch with his robotic bugs. It appears Leader and Gargoyle have found Bruce's abandoned lab and are again working together to rebuild it as their lair. Leader sends the bugs to Chicago to look for Hulk. Meanwhile, Rick overhears the nun and smells sulfur, realizing that the Ghost Rider is after Hulk. Betty also realizes what her dad has done, and she takes Samson to find Hulk before Glenn does. Fortunately, Rick finds Ghost Rider before he attacks Hulk and tries to convince him that Hulk is innocent. As the fire on his motorbike doesn't burn Rick, the Ghost Rider realizes the purity of Rick's heart and agrees to give him a lift. Hulk is resting on a building when Leader and Gargoyle sends a bug to get Hulk's hair so that Leader can use the DNA to make a gamma army for himself. However, Hulk crushes the bug, and Glenn soon appears before his eyes. To escape, Hulk enters the abandoned building and finds a photo of a brown-haired woman, which reminds him of Betty. Glenn takes the opportunity to sneak up on Hulk and shoots him with the tranquilizer ray. As Glenn continues to shoot at the Hulk, he smashes the building, leading it to collapse. Ghost Rider rescues Glenn, but when he sees into Glenn's eyes, he realizes how Glenn instigated the Hulk. With the tranquilizer taking effect, Hulk turns to Banner. Ghost Rider tells Rick that if Hulk changes to a human, the debris of the building will kill him. Rick pretends to be hurt, which makes Bruce Hulk out and escape the rubble. However, Hulk is already too weak when Betty and Samson arrive. Betty states that if Hulk turns to Bruce, the tranquilizer will kill him. Unfortunately, Hulk changes to Bruce, but the Ghost Rider may have a trick up his sleeve as he pulls Bruce into his chains and makes him angry, which turns him back to the Hulk. Samson also joins Ghost Rider as they both try to keep Hulk angry and help him burn the tranquilizer. However, it is still not enough, and as a last resort, Betty and Rick lie that they don't love Hulk and that Hulk ruined their lives. A mad Hulk finally burns off all the tranquilizers. But at what cost? Rick and Betty further confuse Hulk by trying to explain themselves, and Hulk leaves. Ghost Rider assures them that Hulk's heart will heal with time. But something more terrifying awaits, as Leader has finally managed to get Hulk's hair. Man to man, beast to beast. Bruce reaches Canada, and with nothing covering his torso, Bruce is almost freezing as he records his daily log about finding Dr. Walter Lankowski to get help in finding a cure. Bruce falls into freezing water, and as the current pulls him, he changes into the Hulk. When Hulk comes out of the water, he is greeted by a cute puppy who licks him and takes him to the nearby town. A little boy called Taylor comes out of his home to meet the puppy and asks Hulk if he is the Sasquatch. But the green monster answers that he is Hulk. However, when Taylor's parents come out, they assume Hulk is Sasquatch. This alerts the whole neighborhood, which comes out and forces Hulk out of town, refusing to listen to Taylor. Hulk doesn't attack first, but gets mad when someone kicks Scout the pup. Once again, we see that humans have poorer instincts than animals. General Ross and Gabriel were also notified about the Sasquatch sighting, and Gabriel decided to check if it was the Hulk. Betty jokes it can't be Hulk, and General Ross should let Gabriel trot the globe alone. On the other hand, Taylor and Scout are still keen on finding and helping Hulk, who has again turned back into Banner. A growl is heard, and someone drags Bruce away. Bruce wakes up inside Walter Lankowski's lab. Walter confesses that he has learned everything from Bruce's tape recorder and has followed every news about the Hulk. Walter promises to help Bruce as he claims to have found a cure. However, a sudden pain makes Walter rush out. At the same time, Taylor and Scout approach the area to investigate Hulk's footprint. While writing these stories, the crew and producer Tom Tataranovitz mixed different versions of the Hulk, which involved instances from the comics, the live-action TV series, and even their unique ideas. That is probably why the series was so much appreciated. This episode is, however, based on The Incredible Hulk Volume 1 and Annual Issue Number 8. Back at the lab, Bruce discovers video logs of Walter experimenting on himself that have turned him into the Sasquatch. Just then, Sasquatch enters the lab, gets angry at Bruce, and tries to throttle him. Bruce is able to calm him down as Walter changes back to human form. He then encourages Banner to participate in an experiment that will cure them of their conditions. As the two get into separate chambers, the power surges and the experiment goes wrong, turning them back into their monstrous forms. Taylor and Scout arrive at the house at the same time, but Hulk grabs them just before the lab blows up. The townsfolk also realize that Taylor has followed Hulk and approaches the site, as Taylor's father notices that Hulk has saved his son. However, Sasquatch is not far behind, and he blames Hulk for making him a permanent monster. This episode is the only one to feature Sasquatch's human form, as Sasquatch has also appeared in the X-Men 1992 episode Repo Man. In the comics, the gamma rays breached the interdimensional barrier, letting Walter channel the mystical creature Sasquatch, but believed it was the gamma rays. As Hulk and the Sasquatch fight, Taylor worries that Hulk will be hurt, which ultimately leads to Taylor falling into the water. Hulk stops fighting Sasquatch and jumps into the water to rescue Taylor. He blows on the kid to wake him up. A kid getting hurt also drives sense into Sasquatch, who realizes that he has lost perspective, but now that he is permanently a monster, he can no longer live with humans. Sasquatch breaks off a portion of the land to form an iceberg and drifts away on the iceberg. As the townsfolk arrive and circle Hulk, Taylor's father convinces them that Hulk saved his son. He stops the townsfolk from attacking, but Hulk must leave when he notices Gabriel arriving with his troop. But this time, the townsfolk breaks Gabriel's aircraft, stopping him from pursuing Hulk.
Tin Grin there is all mine!
Doomed. As Bruce Banner gets to Washington, D.C., he gets chased by General Ross's Hulkbusters and some unknown robots. The robots help Banner from the Hulkbusters, but when one soldier captures him, Banner hulks out and trashes the Hulkbuster. Hulk escapes and arrives at his cousin Jennifer Walters' apartment. He has changed back into Banner and passes out from exhaustion, which allows Jennifer to clothe him with a lovely pink girly top, as if Bruce was not humiliated enough. But before Bruce can reveal his identity as the Hulk to her, the unidentified robots break through the doors and attack. Jennifer and Bruce escape the apartment in Jennifer's convertible, with Bruce in the driving seat. This is quite a wrong judgment of action, considering that he soon turns into the Hulk, shocking Jennifer and crashing the car. As the robot follows, Hulk gets rid of some of the robots, since Hulk doesn't want to associate himself with puny Banner and is unaware of familial relationships. He is wary of Jennifer and realizes she is not Betty. However, Jennifer calms him down and tells him that she is family. The exchange is further interrupted by the robots, which injures Jennifer, and the robots abduct her. Hulk follows and gets on top of the aircraft that takes in Jennifer, while one of Leader's bugs crashes, indicating all this while Leader was keeping an eye on the matter. Leader finds Gargoyle absent from his position and working on a cure for his deformity. He banishes Gargoyle from the lab, who leaves after stealing a disc. Meanwhile, the aircraft with Jennifer lands in front of a castle, revealing that Dr. Victor Von Doom has abducted Jennifer and lured Hulk to his lair. Doom has Jennifer strapped to a bed and wired with bombs as he threatens to blow her up if Hulk even touches Doom. As the US government issues a petition for Von Doom to surrender, the supervillain uses a force field to hold Washington, D.C. as a prisoner of war. The plot of this episode is similar to the Fantastic Four, the animated series episode Nightmare in Green, where Dr. Doom wanted Hulk's power for himself. As Dr. Doom confines Hulk and Jennifer to a room, Hulk changes back into Banner. Jennifer brings Bruce up to date, but she almost passes out due to significant blood loss. As Bruce gears up to save her, the US Army launches an attack on Dr. Doom's estate in retaliation for his war crimes. Dr. Doom threatens to unleash the Hulk upon the military, but the US president tells him to shove it up, while he refuses any negotiations. Meanwhile, Bruce ensures a blood transfusion to save Jennifer, but he is pulled out of the room before she recovers. Dr. Doom places a chip on Bruce's neck to keep him under control as he turns into the Hulk. Hulk destroys the army tanks under Doom's orders, and Doom sends him to attack the White House. The blood transfusion changes Jennifer into She-Hulk, and she attacks Dr. Doom and his robots. The entire transformation might be a bit provocative, but that's just the charm of the character, and it is often considered fan service. The origin of She-Hulk is similar to the comics, where Jennifer was injured by Nicholas Trask's hired assassin who wanted to stop Jennifer from investigating his criminal activities. Unlike Hulk, She-Hulk retains her mind and personality and becomes a muscular green woman. She manages to obtain the communicator and calls Hulk back. Hulk realizes that he is in control of Doom and rips off the chip from his neck. He returns in time to stop Doom's robots from attacking She-Hulk, but Dr. Doom escapes. A shameless General Ross reports that he has put everything under control. Later, Bruce and She-Hulk make their way towards New York, while a last glimpse into Leader's lair shows he is ready with the Gamma Warriors.
Kidding. Leave Brent alone.
Fantastic Fortitude. Bruce Banner's latest attempt to cure himself of the Hulk involves seeking help from Mr. Fantastic, or Reed Richards. Bruce sits by the pier and mops about creating She-Hulk out of Jennifer, but the said person is having the time of her life. Her unnatural beauty causes a worker to topple explosives on the pier. While Jennifer saves the man, Bruce is thrown into the water by a container and forced to turn into Hulk. Hulk gets lost in New York, but Jennifer finds him and decides to take the subway route to Reed Richards. The sound of the subway trains changes Hulk into Banner. Rick Jones is also in New York looking for Banner when Ogress, under Leader's order, places a tracker on Rick's bike. At the Fantastic Four Tower, Reed, Sue and Johnny Storm leave for a beach vacation, leaving a grumpy Thing to handle matters. The Invisible Woman and Human Torch makes a non-speaking cameo appearance. As Thing hails a taxi to go to the zoo, Rick finds him and tries to talk with him about Banner. Thing, or Ben Grimm, recognizes Rick as who always hangs with Banner, but has no time to listen to him. Rick follows Thing to the empty zoo when the Yancey Street Gang cages Ben and dumps bananas on him. It is the first and only time the Yancey Street Gang was featured in any Marvel animations. Also, only their shadows can be seen running away as Ben goes after them. However, he is thrown back by Ogress, who also throws Rick into a crocodile pit. Thing jumps into the water to save Rick from the crocodiles, while Bruce and Jennifer also arrive at the same time. She-Hulk fights Ogress while Bruce jumps into the water to stop the crocodiles. A crocodile scratch changes Bruce to Hulk. As he takes on the crocodiles, Rick comes out of the water and Thing tries to take care of him, but gets punched by Hulk. The episode is a sequel to the Fantastic Four episode Nightmare in Green, as Ben recognizes Rick and Hulk still considers Thing as the enemy. The original script for the episode wanted Bruce to deal with Reed Richards, but somehow the focus shifted to Thing and She-Hulk. Once She-Hulk defeats Ogress, she flirts with Thing and asks him to take her to his home. Hulk also escapes with Rick in his arms, and when they are in Baxter's building, he becomes Banner. When Ben and Jen arrive, Bruce requests to use Reed's gamma generator to cure himself and Jennifer, but Ben points out that Jennifer is doing fine with the changes. Ben also talks about his relationship issues with Bruce as they work on setting up the generator. However, before Bruce can proceed with the experiment, Ogress and the rest of the Gamma Warriors attack the place. Bruce is halfway through changing into Hulk when he is frozen and taken by the Gamma Warriors. Jen, Ben and Rick follow them to the Statue of Liberty, where another fight ensues. As frozen, Bruce falls into the water. She-Hulk jumps in to save him, but the Ogress is after her. Bruce finally changes into Hulk and breaks through as he rescues Jennifer from the water. In the comics, She-Hulk joined the Fantastic Four during Secret Wars as Thing was on leave. Rick makes Hulk understand that Thing is not an enemy, but a friend, urging him to help Ben. As Hulk joins the fight, all the Gamma Warriors are defeated, and Leader promises to himself to create more potent warriors. As the police arrive, She-Hulk realizes she is drawing more attention towards Bruce and asks Hulk to leave. However, the danger is not over for Ben Grimm as the Yancey Street Gang drops pamphlets of Thing getting beaten by Ogress all over him.
Hulk smash and
Mortal Bounds. The Incredible Hulk arrives at Black Hill, South Dakota, and as he rests on the lush green grass, he transforms into Banner. Bruce calls up Betty from a payphone, but Agent Gabriel uses it to track him. Betty gets furious with her father for letting S.H.I.E.L.D. invade her privacy, but soon she gets drafted by the DDC, which is a spoof of the CDC. She lands in Detroit to find empty streets and enters a hospital with staff wearing hazmat suits. There, she meets Dr. Donald Blake, who informs her that he needs her help to stop the spread of the gamma virus, which has started causing skin rashes, hallucinations, respiratory problems, and coma in the affected people. Betty comments that only Bruce Banner can help him, but it surprises Dr. Blake as he thought Banner had perished in the gamma reactor explosion. Betty requests Dr. Blake to get Hulk and promises that Banner will follow. Dr. Blake goes to the rooftop and turns into the Norse god Thor as he opens a portal with his Mjolnir to find Hulk. At the Black Hills, Ross, Gabriel and their soldiers are after Bruce, who turns to the Hulk. As Hulk gets on top of Mount Rushmore, Gabriel releases a gamma-reinforced rage cage that finally confines Hulk. The god of thunder, Thor, arrives and breaks the cage with lightning. The scene is a reused footage of Thor charging a machine to power Galactus. Thor portals Hulk to Detroit and explains that he needs to talk to Bruce, but this angers Hulk, who despises Banner. The hero's conversation leads to an entertaining fight sequence. However, when Thor turns back to Dr. Blake for a moment, Hulk fails to recognize him and leaves. This fight is the second one outside the comics, but it is considered more comic accurate. The first one happens in the live-action TV movie The Incredible Hulk Returns. The plot of this episode is also partially based on The Incredible Hulk Volume 1 and issue number 255. Hulk rests beside a lonely, infected homeless man who seeks his company. Sometime later, Hulk changes to Bruce and takes the sick man to the hospital, where he meets Betty and Dr. Blake. As they fill him in about the disease, Bruce realizes that his blood can be used to make a cure. Blake realizes that Bruce is Hulk, but they are interrupted when the homeless man struggles and tears off a part of Betty's sleeve and the virus samples fall on her. With little time left to cure Betty, Bruce works in a rush, but he gets abducted by Abomination, who takes him to Gargoyle. Abomination wants a rematch with Hulk, and it is the first time he has a speaking role in the story. Gargoyle is also sick and dying as he reveals that he attempted to cure his disfiguration, which caused the creation of the virus that is now transmitted by small insects. Despite knowing that Gargoyle is responsible for the epidemic, Bruce has no option but to work with him. As Bruce and Gargoyle work on the serum, Gargoyle notes that the process of slow exposure could isolate the mutagenic, which would also cure Bruce. But the factors of the serum could never be remade, so Bruce must use it now or never. However, Bruce prefers to work on the cure, which amazes Gargoyle. Just as Bruce is done, Abomination takes the cure as he too was sick. Abomination throws the vial away as it still has some serum, and Gargoyle scrambles to use it. As he recovers, Gargoyle again turns back hideous and scurries away with the vial. Meanwhile, Bruce has turned into Hulk while fighting Abomination. Thor also joins in, as he has tracked Abomination with the help of the vast amount of salt left behind. As Hulk still considers Thor an enemy, Thor reminds him of Betty and tells him that Betty needs help. Abomination floods the underground mine by ripping off a large rock, but gets washed away by the water. But this time, Hulk and Thor work together to stop it. Afterward, Thor takes Hulk to Betty at the hospital. When Betty wakes up, she sees Bruce sitting beside her. Donald informs that the serum is almost ready, but there is no time to save Betty. In a surprising event, Gargoyle arrives with the last bit of serum Banner prepared to save Betty. Gargoyle informs that although they are at opposite ends in this life, he and Banner could have been good colleagues. Gargoyle leaves, promising to be enemies the next time they meet. After Betty recovers, she and Bruce share a short-lived romantic moment as military helicopters pull up. When Bruce tries to escape on a moving train, the homeless man from before gives him a hand to pull him inside. And the wind cries, Wendigo. The episode starts with Doc Samson capturing Hulk in a steel cage, but as the Hulk keeps pulling, Samson has to let go, and the cage falls into the water, dissipating its electrical charge. As a result, Hulk breaks through and escapes, once again letting down General Ross. Back at the Gamma base, Betty intercepts a message from her father, informing her that someone has been looting livestock in North Carolina, possibly Hulk. Betty locates the area and leaves with an aircraft after deleting all the data. In Redwood Forest, Hulk overhears a native man called Jefferson Whitedeer conducting a tribal orientation meeting, where he tells the young people about Wendigo. Jefferson shares the story of a Churok warrior called Lone Eagle, who became so proud and arrogant of his victories that he became reckless and led his tribe to danger. The medicine man summoned all his shaman powers to turn Lone Eagle into the evil man-beast called Wendigo, whose curse will only be lifted when he learns humility by defeat. However, the Wendigo was in hibernation and had woken up again. The story is inspired by The Incredible Hulk Volume 1, issue number 162, but in the comics, the curse of Wendigo stems from cannibalism and not ego. Cannibalism was removed due to broadcast standards, while the location was changed from Canada, as there has already been an episode featuring Canadian beast Sasquatch. When a howl is heard, Jefferson orders the young people to leave. Hulk also gets ambushed by the Wendigo. Hulk and Wendigo get into a fight as Jefferson starts to chant. The chanting forces the Wendigo to leave, and Hulk turns back to Bruce. Jefferson takes Bruce back to his home in the forest while Betty arrives. She examines footprints when she gets captured by the Wendigo. Gabriel also meets General Ross and tells him about Betty intercepting his message and going to Redwood Forest alone. They leave immediately to find both Betty and Hulk. In the meantime, Jefferson explains the curse to Bruce and tells him that the Lone Eagle is his ancestor. Jefferson dresses up in his tribal garb and performs a ceremonial dance to help with Bruce's condition, which provides a flashback of the problems Bruce faced and how Betty was a constant. Jefferson informs Bruce that Betty is in trouble as she got abducted by the Wendigo, and he rushes out. However, he is immediately surrounded by the military as Gabe and Ross put handcuffs on Banner. Bruce tries to tell them about Betty, but they don't pay attention. Ensuring that he gets help from General Ross, Bruce attaches the other handcuff to Ross. Bruce soon turns to Hulk, knocks out Gabriel, and jumps on the ground with General Ross. General Ross and Hulk hear Betty's screams and realize she is in danger. General Ross tries to open the mechanical handcuff, but Hulk is impatient and hits it with a rock, jamming it instead. The Wendigo takes Betty to his cave and throws her in a ditch. He then goes up to Jefferson and tries to hurt him, but Jefferson calms him down, telling him how he is close to breaking the curse. Hulk gets frustrated as he fails to track Betty, and General Ross offers to help as he has been trained for it. They share deep, one-sided conversations, as Hulk's vocabulary and comprehension are limited. Hulk also saves General Ross from being stung by a snake. Betty escapes from the cave, but the Wendigo pursues her. General Ross hears the echo of her scream and arrives at the cliff where the Wendigo has cornered Betty. Betty is ready to fight back with sticks and stones, but the primary battle must happen between Hulk and Wendigo. However, as General Ross gets hurt in the fight, he is forced to finally unlock the mechanical handcuff with the help of his star. As Betty hugs her father, Hulk and Wendigo engage in an intense battle, eventually falling from the cliff. Unsure of what happened to Hulk, General Ross leaves, promising never to give up hunting Hulk, and takes a sad Betty with him. Later, the spirit of the Wendigo rises from the rubble as Jefferson bids his ancestor goodbye. The Lone Eagle turns into a real eagle and flies away while Hulk looks at it with a smile. Darkness and Light, Part 1. This is the first segment of the season's finale, and it starts with Betty's monologue as she waits for Doc Samson to return with Hulk or Banner. Betty and Samson prepared a nutrient bath equipment that would separate Bruce from Hulk. Hulk is in the wild playing with fish in the water when Samson aims a gamma ray gun powered by his own body. While playing in the water, Hulk sees his reflection, which starts to change into Banner, which makes him confused and angry. Hulk hits the rocks in frustration, which makes Samson fall, but he still manages to shoot at Hulk, making him unconscious. Samson lifts an unconscious Hulk in a chopper to take him back to the Gamma base. Back at the base, Rick arrives to meet Betty, which makes General Ross suspicious, and he alerts Major Talbot to keep an eye. Using the Gamma gun has exhausted Samson, but he can't catch a break as Hulk wakes up and brings the chopper down. Hulk pounds on Samson, who manages to fight back. Luckily, Betty and Rick arrive and stop Hulk. Betty assures Hulk that she will separate him from Bruce, but Talbot arrives with several military helicopters. These characters were designed in-house at Marvel Studios. However, Hulk, Betty, Talbot and Samson were done after the 70s comic design, while Leader and Grey Hulk were modelled after the 80s design and Abomination after the 90s design. In fact, finding the right tint for Hulk's green skin was the most difficult challenge for the colouring department. Before the situation gets worse, Rick calls in the Outcasts to help them hide from the military, and the Outcasts show the group an underground tunnel to go back to Gamma Base. Hulk is unwilling to travel through the tunnel, but Betty convinces him. When they arrive at the Gamma Base, Agent Gabriel notices but keeps quiet. Rick convinces Hulk to get in the chamber to start the separation process, and it works fine, but Talbot notices that an unsanctioned experiment is going on and decides to crash the lab. Doc Samson breaks a bridge on top of the soldiers, but Talbot still fries the console, saying that Betty has to suffer the consequences of her action. Someone should remind Talbot of the consequences of being a pest right now. But we like Talbot, as he is sort of underused and could have added more colour instead of the same old General Ross. However, Hulk and Bruce have separated by now, and when Betty and Rick bring them out of the chamber, Hulk is in stasis, while Bruce has no pulse. Obviously, this is not the end for Bruce, as Samson uses a defibrillator to restart his heart. General Ross also arrives and is glad at the outcome, but it is revealed that one of the soldiers is a Gamma warrior in disguise, who supplies all the information to Leader. Conveniently enough, Gargoyle is back being Leader's minion and still suffers humiliation. The news of the separation is also happily received by Leader, who feels it will be easy to extract Hulk's power. On the other hand, Hulk is still in a coma, and Ross wants to freeze him in a cryogenic chamber, while Samson argues that Hulk still has the right to live and must be taught and trained. However, everything is overruled by Agent Gabriel, who takes Hulk away upon Nick Fury's order. Betty is with the unconscious Bruce at the infirmary when Rick appears and tells her about Hulk being taken away to a SHIELD disposal site. Rick goes after them in his bike, while Samson stops the convoy to rescue Hulk. However, without Banner, the Hulk is now a savage beast, and Samson realizes that he has unleashed a monster in the world. Darkness and Light. Part 2. The separation of Hulk and Bruce Banner has turned Hulk from incredible to a mindless beast that has gone on a murderous rampage. Bruce wakes up and wants to meet Samson when Betty informs him that he is marking time in the stockade for releasing Savage Hulk. Bruce feels distraught as he feels the Hulk is his responsibility and his problems are still unresolved. General Ross sends Talbot and the Hulkbusters to recapture Hulk, who is rampaging through the desert towns of New Mexico. Leader follows the news of Hulk destroying towns as it gets covered by every news media and sends his Gamma warriors to capture Hulk. Rick Jones arrives as Hulk is about to throw a jeep full of innocent people. He tries to talk with Hulk and calm him down. However, Hulk may have become amnesiac as he doesn't recognize Rick and throws the car at him. Rick saves himself, but Ogress and the Gamma warriors soon arrive and fight with Hulk. Rick tries to stop the Gamma warriors from capturing Hulk, but the Hulkbuster troop also arrives to complicate things. Ogress knocks out Rick and shoves Hulk to Leader's aircraft as the Gamma warriors emerge victorious in their fight with the military. They leave with Hulk, while a beaten-up Rick gets dragged away by one of the Outcasts. Back at the Gamma Base infirmary, General Ross meets Bruce, who is still recovering. General Ross tells him about Leader capturing Hulk, and Bruce informs him about Leader's plans. As Ross sends soldiers to find Leader's lab, Leader prepares to transfer Hulk's power to his own body. However, the process doesn't work how he wanted, possibly due to Gargoyle's tinkering. Leader's mind gets transferred to Hulk's body as the Leader goes weak. Leader appreciates the change, while Gargoyle instigates him to publicly display his powers by going to the Gamma Base and abducting Bruce Banner. Leader Hulk is an obscure character from the What If Volume 2 and issue number 53. He wears a black tank top, similar to what Smart Professor Hulk wore in the comics. Leader Hulk arrives at the Gamma Base and demands the military to give up Bruce Banner. As Leader Hulk manically starts destroying and causing damage, he becomes more like Hulk. Leader Hulk gets baffled when he hears himself say stuff like smash. Although it's pretty enjoyable for us, Bruce does not take things lightly and wants to sacrifice himself, but not Betty, who calls on the guards and restrains Bruce in her father's name. Elsewhere, Scorps drags Rick to a cave where the other Outcasts surround him. The plot of this three-part finale is loosely based on The Incredible Hulk, Volume 1, issues number 315 to 318 by John Byrne. However, to make it more Hulk-centric, the part about Samson aiding the Avengers in controlling the mindless Hulk is removed from the plot. Leader Hulk starts losing control over Hulk's body as he starts speaking in Hulk's language. He gets a flashback of the gamma reactor exploding and Bruce turning to Grey Hulk and Green Hulk. Bruce observes Leader Hulk aiming for the gamma reactor and worries he will blow up the whole of New Mexico. Leader comes back to consciousness momentarily and gets scared that Hulk will lead to his death. Thankfully, Betty arrives and manages to calm down Hulk, but Leader Hulk escapes, needing to save himself. He goes to the lab and gets back to his own body. Finally, he appreciates what's given to him, and that's his super brain. However, Gargoyle has forgotten to bring Hulk's stasis bed online, which results in Hulk waking up and destroying the lab, forcing Gargoyle and Leader to escape. On the other hand, General Thunderbolt Ross prepares to wear a Hulkbuster exo armor so that he can take down Hulk, but somebody stops him. The episode ends in a surprise, as Bruce confronts Hulk in the Hulkbuster exo armor. Darkness and Light. Part 3. The final episode begins with Banner in an exosuit taking on the Hulk in the desert. Although Banner manages to get a good aim at the Hulk, he suddenly feels emotionally attached and decides to take Hulk back to the Gamma base. Hulk hangs on to the rocks and stones in the desert and struggles against Banner. Meanwhile, Rick is quite injured as the Outcasts take his care in a cavern. Betty also finds her father in a tied and gagged condition as Banner has left after stealing his exo armor. The fight between Banner and Hulk continues as Banner realizes he needs to make Hulk madder so that his brain overloads and he stops rampaging. Before that could happen, Major Talbot appears and shoots at Hulk with laser guns. Hulk tries to kill Talbot, but Banner intervenes and saves him, while General Ross also appears with the gamma gun and shoots at the Hulk. Betty appears in the middle of the fight, and one stray shot hits her Jeep, with Betty barely surviving. Hulk stops and approaches Betty, but seems upset with her, so he leaves. Some redemption could be seen from Talbot, who stops General Ross from shooting when he accidentally hits Betty's car. But General Ross follows Hulk with the gamma gun. The shot and its sounds cause Bruce an excruciating headache as he falls unconscious, and Betty seeks Talbot's help in getting emergency help. Samson treats Bruce, commenting that it was only possible as Talbot got him out of the lockup. Betty decides to marry Bruce and convinces him of the same, while a tired and unconscious Hulk gets dragged away by the Outcasts. Betty is not worried about Rick or her father, which is quite ironic. Isn't she just like her father and self-centered? Speaking of her father, General Ross has become deranged as he chases ghosts of Hulk throughout the desert. Major Talbot finds him and calls the base to inform Betty, but he is shocked to learn that she is getting married. General Ross crashes the wedding and is ready to kill Bruce as he blames it all on him. However, Betty intervenes and blames General Ross for everything going wrong. The wedding scene is loosely inspired by The Incredible Hulk, Volume 1, issue number 319, where Betty and Bruce get married and Ross shoots Rick during the ceremony. In this story, Talbot doesn't support General Ross, who feels betrayed by everyone. It also gets worse for Betty, as Samson notices that Bruce is collapsing. Samson explains that the nutrient bath was a failure since Bruce would die without Hulk. They decide to find Hulk and merge them again. Betty sneaks into a SHIELD helicopter, and Agent Gabriel pursues her to take him along. Meanwhile, the Outcasts have turned Rick into a mummy look-alike by bandaging him over. We sure feel Rick's pain about not getting to scratch at his itch. Rick soon removes it all when he finds Hulk unconscious and convinces the Outcast to take him back to the base. Betty notices the Outcast marching with Rick and Hulk, but Gabe calls the SHIELD choppers. An angry Betty questions Gabe's morals and human decency, as killing Hulk will kill Banner, which nudges Gabe to make the right choice. Back at the Gamma base, Gabe and Talbot watch over Samson and Betty as they prepare to use the nutrient bath for the merge. Betty takes her sweet time bidding goodbye to an unconscious Banner, and just like Samson, we are getting a little impatient with this melodrama. As Betty finally starts the procedure, the mentally unstable General Ross blows up a console and floods the lab. Rick tries to stop General Ross, who throws Rick off the railing, and Rick falls directly into the nutrient bath. Rick emerges as a teenage Hulk and escapes in a mad rush. This part of the plot is taken from The Incredible Hulk, Volume 1, issue number 324, by Al Milligram. Bruce is still intact and unaware of Rick, But as soldiers take General Ross away, they finally realize what has happened to Rick. Bruce rushes out in guilt and agony as he soon starts to change into the Grey Hulk. Will he be better or madder than Green Hulk? Season 2, Hulk of a Different Colour. The second season of The Incredible Hulk starts right where the first season left off, but the show's title is now The Incredible Hulk and She-Hulk, with She-Hulk as a series regular. The story begins with Grey Hulk chasing after Teenage Hulk when he gets attacked by the mad General Ross. Grey Hulk is not only capable of speech, but also has a working mind. However, there might be some personality differences as Grey Hulk mocks Banner. When a random shot from Ross's gamma gun blasts off the nearby rocks, Grey Hulk shields Ross from being crushed, which means he still retains the goodness of Banner. However, finding General Ross's limp body triggers a reaction where Green Hulk and Banner try to take control of the body, and Banner finally succeeds. A soldier finds Banner and unconscious General Ross and arrests Banner for attempted murder. As the news gets public, She-Hulk hears it on the radio and decides to represent her cousin. Jennifer's look as She-Hulk has changed to be more like an Amazonian as her body has now adapted to Bruce's blood transfusion. The design for Grey Hulk is also changed due to higher executives, although in Season 1 it was more comic accurate. The other side effect of last season's complicated events is that Leader's enormous brain is shrinking back, and he asks Gargoyle for help. Gargoyle shows him footage of Rick Jones as Teenage Hulk, who can be of assistance. However, as Leader completely turns to his normal human self, Gargoyle seizes power and becomes the leader. Somewhere in a hospital, Betty looks at her unconscious father, who is recovering from severe injuries and wishes he could say the truth and rescue Bruce. Later, She-Hulk draws attention to herself as she enters the court late for Bruce's hearing. Jennifer Walters is an attorney who makes a good case of proving that Bruce Banner is the Hulk and the one who saved her. But her claims are thwarted by the opposition, who shows footage of Rick and calls him the Hulk. Betty is in the court and tries to protest, but Gargoyle and Leader break into the courtroom in their aircraft. They capture Bruce Banner as She-Hulk rips her lawyer's clothes and starts fighting the aircraft. Do you think it's a bit too much, considering it's a kid's cartoon? After all, Gargoyle may also have developed a little crush on Jennifer. When Gargoyle and Leader fly away with Bruce Banner, it forces Grey Hulk to come out. As Grey Hulk is about to quash the villains, they offer to eliminate Banner from Grey Hulk's life in exchange for help finding and capturing Teenage Hulk. She-Hulk arrives and lands a few punches on Gargoyles as she gets acquainted with the new Hulk. However, their difference of opinions makes Jennifer leave. On the other hand, Betty finds satellite footage of the accident and how Grey Hulk protected General Ross. Grey Hulk finds Teenage Hulk, who is a simpleton with mild aggression issues, so it's easy for Grey Hulk to knock him down. This story arc is somewhat based on The Incredible Hulk, Volume 1, issues number 331 to 332 by Peter David and Todd McFarlane, while the concept of Rick turning Teenage Hulk is based on issues number 325 to 330. At Leader's lab, Gargoyle enables the energy transfer from Teenage Hulk to Leader and Grey Hulk, and once Rick is back to normal, Grey Hulk's energy starts to deplete as Leader gains them. However, Leader's plan is once again foiled as She-Hulk comes to the rescue. Leader unleashes the Gamma Warriors upon the Hulk cousins who fight them well. However, Jennifer must also protect Rick as he is no longer the Hulk. As Jennifer escapes with Rick, the Grey Hulk gets madder and the Green Hulk takes control, smashing the lab. The villains scramble and flee as the lab goes down. This has been the last appearance of Rick Jones, who will probably now lead a normal life. She-Hulk and Betty Ross present evidence proving that Hulk or Banner didn't try to kill General Ross, and Banner was acquitted. Sometime later, She-Hulk picks up Banner and promises to help him find a cure, provided he doesn't want to change her.
The
Down memory lane, She-Hulk and Bruce Banner are now staying together, and She-Hulk receives an invitation to attend her high school reunion, while Bruce receives a delivery of a gamma particle detector. She-Hulk feels weak and tired as she has not rested properly for days. They notice someone driving away with Jennifer's car and follow, but Bruce gets cornered by Leader, who has brought in Abomination. The confrontation turns Bruce into Green Hulk, who defeats Abomination and forces Leader to run. Meanwhile, She-Hulk catches up to her car, which is driven by Gargoyle. Gargoyle is head over heels for She-Hulk, and his sleazy attitude even drives She-Hulk nuts, so she dumps a dustbin on him and leaves with the car. But Gargoyle finds the invitation letter and now knows where to find the Hulks. She-Hulk takes Hulk to her parents' house, but she stashes Hulk in a treehouse and goes inside to greet her parents. Although Bruce or Hulk is no longer a fugitive or chased by the military, the Hulk is still intimidating to the public. Jennifer's parents seem unaware of her condition and are shocked, but she explains the situation. Jen's mum also notices that her brown eyes look tired. In the comics, Mrs. Walters dies in a car crash when Jennifer is only 17. Stan Lee voices Jen's father, Cliff Walters, and in the comics, his name is William Morris Walters. While She-Hulk goes to take a well-deserved nap, Hulk also dozes off in the treehouse and turns back to Banner while Gargoyle tests a new set of robots with Ogress and Abomination. When Banner wakes up, She-Hulk asks him to dress up so that they can attend her school's reunion. Turns out, Jennifer was a mere wallflower back in her high school days, but she makes the heads turn around when she makes a grand entry as the She-Hulk. The scene features She-Hulk doing the Macarena and making her classmates jealous. However, once again, she is wired out, and the situation turns complicated when Abomination knocks out Bruce and kidnaps him. Gargoyle meets She-Hulk and promises to help her find a solution for the loss of energy and power if only she professes her love for him. That's probably the worst deal he could ask for, and it's evident that She-Hulk turns him down. Although She-Hulk soon turns into Jennifer, she accepts her old self. How often can we do that? It's definitely a great lesson to learn. Gargoyle approaches her once again, but she refuses. Gargoyle now brings in the robots to attack and kidnap Jennifer, while Sheriff Walters also tries to save his daughter. If you are concerned by the second season's look of the cast, it's because the network changed the producer, director, and crew in the second season to align with their creative ideas. In fact, in the first season, the UPN executive had no feeling or understanding about Marvel fans and action-adventure, as she was obsessed with fashion. It's probably why the second season is a little bit off. Nevertheless, seeing Jennifer in trouble, Bruce hulks out, but he has to save Mr. Walters first, who asks Hulk to save Jennifer. Hulk smashes the robots while Ogress fights Jennifer. As Jennifer tries to save her classmates from a concrete canopy falling over, she changes back to She-Hulk and defeats the Ogress, forcing the villains to retreat for now. The next day, Bruce tests She-Hulk and informs her that she needs rest. Otherwise, she will change back to normal form forever. It's also the adrenaline rush that helped her transform. As the cousins leave, Cliff Walters apologizes to Bruce for judging Hulk. In conclusion, the family has always got your back.
You will be stopped!
Mind over antimatter. The episode begins with the mighty Doctor Strange fighting an alien demon in another dimension. A portal opens up as the alien demon sends Doctor Strange right through it, and he ends up on Earth. The entity also takes the form of a ball of light and enters Earth as it tries to possess several human beings. She-Hulk and Bruce Banner are at a carnival enjoying their time, and She-Hulk even wins an Iron Man toy with the hammer game. As they go on a scary ride, the alien enters Bruce's body, and he starts feeling excruciating pain. Bruce starts seeing the alien and fights the air as She-Hulk looks worried. In his mind, the alien demon watches the green and grey Hulk wrestle each other. However, the alien throws them off and takes over Bruce's mind while he falls unconscious. She-Hulk lifts the unconscious Bruce when Doctor Strange appears before her. He introduces himself as Master of the Mystic Arts and takes her to the Sanctorium. Although Doctor Strange explains what has happened happened to Bruce, we can't blame She-Hulk for calling him Dr. Weird. Doctor Strange also points out that they need to stop the alien, but he cannot do it alone, so he pulls She-Hulk to travel into Bruce's mind dimension. A heads up should have worked for She-Hulk, but we understand Doctor Strange doesn't have time to spare. Once inside Bruce's mind, they notice the alien demon rampaging through Bruce's memories. Doctor Strange suggests they must find Bruce's eye, or the more instinctive impulses, but as they get attacked, Doctor Strange falls, and She-Hulk has to lift him. Seeing Doctor Strange in someone's arms is quite amusing. Doctor Strange notices that the alien is trying to erase Bruce's memories to have more control. Strange instructs She-Hulk not to let the alien touch her. They soon land in the fantasy realm of Bruce's mind, which features several personalities like a dancer, a surfer, a rock star, a motorcyclist, and even Spider-Man. The Spider-Man reference is actually a tribute to this episode's writer, John Semper, who was the producer for Spider-Man the Animated Series, 1994. Doctor Strange and She-Hulk finally arrive at the innermost core of Bruce's mind, where they find the green and grey Hulk in a stupefied position. Outside, Bruce takes the form of the Dark Hulk, as the alien takes control of his mind. Accompanied by some upbeat music, the Dark Hulk rampages on the city to enslave it. However, Doctor Strange uses the Eye of Agamotto to distract the alien and stop the Dark Hulk. The strategy works, but only momentarily, and as She-Hulk approaches him, the alien shoves her. The plot of this episode is loosely based on Dark Hulk's story from The Incredible Hulk Volume 1 and issues number 37-371. But in the comics, Dark Hulk was black and white with bowl-cut hair, whereas in this animated version, he is purple-skinned with dreadlocks. Dark Hulk destroys army tanks and is about to cause more destruction by releasing a nuclear warhead from a military base. He switches on the bomb's timer, but She-Hulk has woken up Green and Grey Hulk, who decide to work together and charge at the alien demon. Although Grey Hulk gets thrown, Green Hulk withstands the onslaught of attacks. Doctor Strange realizes the need to tire out the alien, and together they force the Dark Hulk to fight. As the alien gets defeated and vanquished, Banner wakes up just in time to stop the countdown timer of the bomb. Doctor Strange and She-Hulk come out of Bruce's mind, and Doctor Strange notes it's time to bail. Looks like She-Hulk has also rubbed off on Doctor Strange as he joins She-Hulk and Banner for a roller coaster ride. They call me Mr. Fix-It. It's time to look at the mob world as Miss Allure asserts her dominance over the Chicago mob business with her superpowers. She is also aided by a host of goons in a red suit and their leader, Carl Crusher Creel, or, as you might have known him, the Absorbing Man. Miss Allure is an original character made for the series, though she is considered to be inspired by Mercy, a villain featured in issue number 338 of The Incredible Hulk comics. On the contrary, Crusher Creel is a long-time antagonist in the Hulk comics. Miss Allure is unsatisfied with her mind-controlling powers and wants to enhance them. She threatens the scientists working for her and disposes of them when Crusher shows her Bruce Banner's resume. Bruce and Jennifer fly to Chicago, as Ms. Allure's foundation has funded Bruce's research. However, before She-Hulk can come out of the airport, Bruce gets forcibly ushered into a limo by Crusher. Allure also joins them in the car and uses hypnosis to make Bruce follow her bidding, though she gets glimpses of the Hulk. Mr. Rock, a mob boss, confronts them in the middle of the road, but Allure uses her skills to use Mr. Rock's men to kidnapping Mr. Rock for her, but she keeps getting headaches. She-Hulk inquires about Crusher and learns that Crusher is a leg breaker for Miss Allure. Allure flirts with Banner as he examines her eyes, but Crusher is not taking this development well. Banner informs Allure that enhancing the power of her eye can damage Allure's brain, and she can die. Allure doesn't care, even though Bruce displays extreme concern for her, as if he is in love. Allure instructs Crusher to take Bruce to shop for items he would need to enhance Allure's eyes. The jealous Crusher takes Banner to a warehouse to steal the items, but has his own plans to kill Banner by blowing up the warehouse. Crusher's clothes are different in the comics, as he usually wears a tank top and no hat, but in this episode, he is well suited and has a bolder hat. She-Hulk notices Banner riding with Crusher and follows them. As she loses the trail, Jennifer realizes Bruce is in trouble. On the other hand, Crusher's ambush triggers Banner and Grey Hulk to appear after a fight with Green Hulk. Both Hulk and the goons with Crusher escape the warehouse. She-Hulk meets Grey Hulk, and he explains that Allure has Bruce under her control. She-Hulk helps Grey Hulk take the appearance of her leg breaker, Mr. Fix-It. In the comics, Grey Hulk assumes the identity of Mr. Joe Fix-It to get rid of Bruce Banner and live his own life in Las Vegas. She-Hulk also puts on seductive clothing and calls herself Ms. Green, as she and Hulk put a dent in Ms. Allure's business, which drives her mad. When Crusher and the goons attack Hulk and She-Hulk, they are able to easily fight them off, but Crusher touches Hulk and gets his power. Grey Hulk uses his mind to help Banner remember his true love, Betty Ross, which allows him to revert to Banner. Crusher also turns back to normal and takes Banner back to finally conduct the treatment on Ms. Allure. Once again, Crusher confesses his feelings for Allure, who spites him for not understanding her materialistic needs. Miss Green, or She-Hulk, also shows up in Allure's high-rise with Big Eyes building. But when Allure tries to use her powers on She-Hulk, Allure realizes that her powers are gone, and Bruce explains that he actually cured her. When the police arrive to arrest Allure and Crusher, Crusher promises to be by Allure's side and confesses that he did not love her for her power. Wait, what? Does this romance make sense to you guys? The two kiss before being taken away, bringing Jennifer to tears.
Happened!
The Fashion Warriors, that's what.
Fashion Warriors, a fashion show, is arranged by a children's charity group at Le Chateau de Chez Hotel, Miami, for the women of power, and no guess for the showstopper. She-Hulk travels to take part, along with her reluctant cousin Bruce Banner. However, Betty is also going to walk the ramp as a woman of science, but Bruce doesn't know that. Leader, Gargoyle, and their Gamma Warriors also arrive at the top of the hotel to take the people hostage. As Gargoyle reminds Leader, they are currently out of funds and might have to start doing regular jobs. As the fashion show starts, Gargoyle and Leader watch from the control room. Several beautiful models in extraordinary swimwear walk the ramp, and Gargoyle comments he wouldn't miss it, proving he is a creep and a pervert. Bruce is surprised at seeing Betty on the ramp, and so is Gargoyle when he sees She-Hulk. However, their shock might be less intimidating than the poor audience who now have to feast their eyes on Ogress. Feeling jealous and left out, Ogress walks, or rather crashes the ramp until She-Hulk retorts and calls her ugly for the umpteenth time. If you found the scene cringy and disturbing, please join the gang, as even if the 90s were a time of the less aware, it surely didn't call for such crass write-ups. However, one outstanding aspect of this episode is using animated versions of real actors. This includes Lou Ferrigno, Cree Summer, Mark Hamill, Luke Perry, Matt Frewer, and Kathy Ireland. As the Gamma Warriors break into the stage and knock everyone down with gas, Bruce turns into Green Hulk. Abomination finds the Hulk unconscious and reports it to Leader, who orders him to take Hulk to the stasis unit. Meanwhile, the models take the laundry chute to escape from being found by Gargoyle, who is looking for She-Hulk. As they watch Hulk being taken away, the women decide to take matters into their own hands. But beware, there's one more cringe fest with Ogress trying on black swimwear. Leader asks for $100 million in exchange for the hostages, and the mayor approves it. The other models take down the robots and cameras, and Jennifer takes Betty on her back and climbs up the elevator shaft, the purpose of which is not clarified. They encounter Ogress in an elevator coming down. She-Hulk fights Ogress but gets hit by a laser, while Ogress overthrows Betty. With Betty being taken away, She-Hulk is left to fight the Gamma Warriors. One of the models takes down the drones while the other cuts the power. Ogress reports that She-Hulk is making their way to the penthouse, so the villains try to escape, but not before Hulk wakes up and confronts them with Betty on his back. She-Hulk and the Fashion Warriors also arrive and kick some butts, while police choppers surround the area. Realizing there's no way around it, Leader and gang escape in their aircraft, but not before Gargoyle makes another ludicrous offer to She-Hulk. He licks his lips to make it sicker for us viewers. However, the heroes now have a choice to make to either try to stop the criminals or save the hostages from a ticking bomb. The choice is simple though, as Hulk and She-Hulk crash into the penthouse, with Hulk grabbing and throwing the bomb into the distance, which ultimately explodes underwater. Speaking of underwater, our motley crew of criminals got stuck underwater as their submarine aircraft ran out of gas. Clearly, Running a criminal business is a costly affair. As the fashion warriors get their well-deserved limelight from the media, we finally see Betty and Bruce have a little romance.
Oh yeah! I am Greena, warrior princess.
Hollywood rocks. You can be rest assured that Season 2 is not about Hulk at all, as it starts with She-Hulk winning a game of volleyball against a group of boys. Meanwhile, asteroids are heading towards Earth, and Bruce Banner is helping a scientist friend create a beam machine to deflect the asteroids. The lab is suddenly attacked by Dr. Doom and his robot soldiers, who knock the scientists unconscious. The Hulks wage war on each other in Bruce's mind, until Green Hulk emerges as the winner, and Bruce transforms. He not only calls Dr. Doom as Dr. Dumb, but also destroys the robots. The bomb placed by Dr. Doom explodes in Hulk's hand as Dr. Doom escapes, while Hulk also survives and leaves. In a nearby town in Hollywood, She-Hulk etches her name on cement beneath producer Danny Sarnoff's star. She soon hears a truck almost running over an old woman and stops the truck. Jennifer soon realizes that she has interrupted the film's shooting, but her stunt impresses the director, who casts her in his movie. The film She-Hulk shoots for is Greena, Warrior Princess, a parody of Xena, Warrior Princess. During the shooting, She-Hulk flies on a hang glider and spots Hulk sitting quietly on a Hollywood sign and says, "Hi," while Hulk also notices her. The animation for this episode is quite top-notch, and She-Hulk's purple catsuit is one to remember. Interestingly, the animation was done by a South Korean animation house called Say-Rom, which also worked on the super popular Gargoyles series and Batman, the animated show, 1992. As She-Hulk lands, she is surrounded by Dr. Doom and his robots. Doom stuns Jennifer, but Hulk also appears and tries to stop them. However, he too gets stunned in the fight and gets captured by the robots. When She-Hulk and Hulk wake up, they find themselves in a lab where Banner's co-workers are mind-controlled by Doom. Doom reveals that the movie was a setup to capture Hulk and She-Hulk. He has also modified the beam machine to not only repel objects, but also pull them to Earth. Doom uses the beam to send asteroids into 3 marked lands and threatens the world leaders that he can now use it to change the map of Earth unless the leaders follow his demands. Doom also sends Hulk on an asteroid and flings it towards the sun. However, Hulk wakes up in time and escapes. Meanwhile, She-Hulk also kicks Dr. Doom's gauntlet and breaks free. She fights the robots and Dr. Doom, who escapes yet again. The chips controlling the scientist also fall off, and they help She-Hulk in finding Hulk. Hulkster jumps from one asteroid to another, and as he comes within range, the scientists try to pull him in. Hulk starts losing air, while Dr. Doom appears for the last time to blast the lab roof and distract She-Hulk and the scientists. The scientist still manages to pull the meteor with Hulk, and as it drops into the ocean, She-Hulk rushes to get him. Hulk changes into Bruce, and Jennifer picks him up. Bruce's scientist friends promise to keep the Hulk a secret, but the director appointed by Doom comes back wanting to sign She-Hulk and Hulk for another movie. However, this time, She-Hulk shoves the script right into his mouth.
My power!
The Lost Village. Somewhere in New York, an old Chinese man obtains half of a medallion, but gets attacked by a band of ninjas with 2 extra robotic hands. Bruce and Betty have been walking nearby when they hear the screams and venture to investigate. Bruce tries to stop the ninjas from hurting the old man, and when he finds Betty in danger, he transforms into the Green Hulk to fight the ninjas, who scurry away in fear. Hulk and Betty check on the injured old man, Tom, who hands the medallion to Hulk and asks him to take it to his twin brother. The medallion helps Hulk calm down and become Bruce Banner, while the old man transforms into dust and vanishes. The ninjas reports the incident to Lord Scimitar. Lord Scimitar tracks Bruce's movement and also his internet search. Bruce and Betty search the internet for the village of Anavrin, which is supposedly where the medallion is from. Jennifer also helps them with a manual library search, and the 3 reach a small Tibetan village. Bruce meets with the old man's twin brother, Tenzing, who has the other half of the medallion. However, the meeting is ambushed by Lord Scimitar and his ninjas. They snatch the medallions from Tenzing, and Bruce changes into Hulk. However, Hulk is humbled by Lord Scimitar, who proves strong enough to punch the Hulk. Scimitar throws Hulk into a well and bombs it before leaving with his ninjas. However, as we all know, Hulk survives the blast. Tenzing also reveals that the medallions snatched by the ninjas were decoys. It's a real, right-in-the-face moment when Scimitar finds that the fake medallions have markings made in China. It is also revealed that Scimitar is Tom and Tenzing's brother, and he was exiled, which is why he seeks to find the medallion of Anavrin. Now, Anavrin is Nirvana spelled backward, and relates to attaining peace and enlightenment. As our group travels with Tenzing on the snowy and stormy mountains, we hope that's what they attain. However, this proves tricky as Scimitar interrupts their journey and steals the real medallions. Hulk, Betty, She-Hulk, and Tenzing fall to an underground temple while escaping, and Betty is knocked out while Tenzing is injured. A portal opens up as hooded people arrive and take the group to safety, which is none other than the hidden kingdom of Anavrin. King Tongxing welcomes the group to their land and helps the injured to recover. Tongxing also uses his scepter to help Hulk find permanent peace and turn to Bruce, letting him and Betty enjoy their time in Anavrin. However, Tongxing looks much younger than his son, and he explains that time moves slowly in Anavrin. A flashback shows how Scimitar got too obsessed with machines and challenged the king, which resulted in his banishment. However, it was when the twins and Scimitar were traveling that they got separated by an avalanche. Tenzing warns his father that Scimitar will attack again now that he has the medallions. Amazingly, She-Hulk manages to get the Queen treatment when Lord Scimitar decides to attack and disrupt the good times. Scimitar snatches the scepter from his father and takes his father and brother hostage. She-Hulk rescues the father and son, while Bruce realizes that he needs to unleash the beast within to take on Lord Scimitar and asks the king to reverse the magic that suppressed the Hulk. King Tongxing declares that he can only give him peace once, so Bruce has to find his own peace next time. As Tongxing releases the Hulk, the Grey and Green Hulk again try to take over, and at one point, both colours appear in a half-and-half avatar. Finally, the Green Hulk wins as he has scores to settle with Scimitar. Hulk defeats Scimitar and knocks him far away into the unknown. The king also joins the two medallions to show that the other twin, Tom, has survived. On their way back home, Bruce informs them that the experience has finally enabled him to find peace and sort out the confusion.
To do the stomp and romp.
Mission Incredible. It is the final episode of the series, which might have taken some cues from the great Mission Impossible movies. It starts with Betty speaking to her still comatose father in the hospital as she wishes he would wake up and accept Bruce. After Betty leaves, a nurse enters the room and a creature exits her body, General Ross. The possessed General Ross approaches Betty, but she soon realizes that it's not her father. She shoots at him, but it leads to an explosion, and as Betty calls Bruce, she gets caught by General Ross, who has survived. Later, Betty tells Bruce about the imposter and his arrest in the S.H.I.E.L.D. sea base. Bruce and Betty further find out that S.H.I.E.L.D. is using the Gamma Power Core to run the base and some adjoining experiments. Although Agent Gabriel informs Bruce and Betty that they don't have clearance, Betty urges Bruce and Jennifer to break into the sea base and deactivate the weapon that uses waves for destruction. Once they break into the base, the three split up as Betty dresses up as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent to get access cards, while She-Hulk works to deactivate the lasers. Bruce is tasked to infiltrate the lower levels by hanging on a harness. The scene is a spot-on reference to Tom Cruise's famous Mission Impossible stunt, but Bruce is not that agile, and as the rope gets accidentally cut, he panics. The Green and Grey Hulk start their usual fight inside Bruce's head, and this time, Grey wins. This might work in favour, as the snarky and witty Grey Hulk can keep a level head than the green one. Betty steals a keycard and runs away after spotting Gabriel. On the other hand, Grey Hulk gets rescued from his odd hanging situation by She-Hulk. However, when Betty arrives, she is disappointed to see Grey Hulk, which further clarifies the doubt that she is the possessed one. Her secret is revealed when the keycard doesn't work, and Gabriel, along with the other agents, corners them. Agent Gabe was used in the series instead of Nick Fury due to a few copyright issues. This was also before Marvel turned Nick Fury into a black guy. So you see, Gabe was just a replacement for him, as Black Nick Fury was later introduced with a similar look. Betty kisses Hulk, and as real Betty faints and falls, a mermaid-like creature sticks to Hulk and possesses him. Agent Gabe recognizes the creature as Diana, who has some secret vengeance against Gabriel. Grey Hulk's brute strength helps Diana to send the agents, and even She-Hulk back to the surface on escape pods. While on the surface, Gabriel explains to She-Hulk that Diana was once a double agent working in the sea base, who accidentally got thrown into the water with deep sea creatures that not only engulfed her, but turned her into a parasite hybrid. As the hybrid Hulk runs the base and tries to use the wave weapon, the power core gets overloaded. Betty wakes up and tries to control it, but to no avail. She-Hulk also jumps back into the water to help her friends. Meanwhile, the power core is heating up and the base is about to blow up, angering the hybrid Hulk. As a result, the Green Hulk appears and the hybrid is thrown out. Green Hulk helps Betty escape to the surface, and together with She-Hulk, he sends the base to an underwater abyss before it blows up. Since the parasite also needs a body to survive, it latches onto a shark. Later, Hulk and She-Hulk appear on top of the dolphins as they make their way to the beach. More surprises and good news are in store as General Ross has finally woken up thanks to the hybrid. He finally accepts Bruce Banner as his future son-in-law. She-Hulk also flirts with Agent Gabriel as they plan to dine together.
Time to kick Master Butt!
Marvelous verdict. Season 1 of The Incredible Hulk really established the characters and their inner turmoil, only not to use them later in the second season. For comic lovers, Season 1 was a nostalgic trip down memory lane, but using the same antagonists and premises was perhaps repetitive and didn't take the story anywhere except for the finale. Season 2 breaks the monotony, but at the cost of storytelling. The plots lacked substance except the one with Doctor Strange. Would you have liked some of the more grey versus green tug-of-war moments? We sure would have. It gives off a feeling that the party was over too soon, and a few more seasons with well-stewed characters may have worked wonders.